Thank you to those that have already joined early. We will be starting in 1 or 2 minutes time, just giving a few more minutes for everyone to join. Just give it 1 or 2 minutes time and we'll get started. Okay, I think we've got a good number of attendees joining, so we'll get started. Welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on BMC Helix Virtual Assistant Chatbot Best Practices. Today's presenters are Abhijit and Or. I will let them introduce themselves when we get started. A couple of caveats. I just want to go through the legal disclaimer. We are recording this live, so this notice is just to let you know we will be putting this onto YouTube, BMC Communities. So if you do ask any questions or come on live, your name may be recorded. Another reminder is the Q&A section. So during this presentation with demo, you have the option to ask questions in the Q&A part of Zoom. We will also have roughly 15 to 20 minutes at the end for any live questions. So if you do prefer to wait till the end, that's absolutely fine. But we will try to answer some of your questions during the presentation. So without further ado, I want to hand over to Abhijit, who's going to get started.
Hi, my name is Abhijit Rajwade. I am the product development architect for Chatbot and some of the other areas. In terms of agenda, today we are going to talk about Chatbot best practices. The next thing we will talk about is intents and utterance related best practices. Then you will see some information related to custom innovation suite processes and how to use them with Chatbot. And finally, we will talk about the Chatbot metrics reports and dashboards. So we'll start with the first topic related to chatbot best practices. So when you start designing a chatbot, you first start building a team, and it consists of multiple members, or rather multiple personas, starting with the business owner, who is the primary driver of the business use cases around the bot. Then there is a service owner who will create or update the DWP catalog services that are required by the bot. There is a knowledge owner who will be in charge of creating and updating the knowledge articles that are required by the bot. There is a chatbot developer whose primary job is to understand the requirements and design or customize the bot. And then there is a project manager to coordinate the overall efforts. Or can, yeah. So in terms of this particular picture is actually capturing the process of designing a bot. So first you build and align your team with the different personas that we talked about. The next important step is to collect information related to your top 10 services or top 10 knowledge articles that you expect to be used from your bot. Once you have identified these, then you go and pick and choose or prioritize amongst these use cases. The next step is you take a look at your service catalog and your knowledge in terms of accuracy or in terms of any other updates or changes needed before you use it from a bot. The next step is to interview your end users and collect and document the questions that the end users are going to ask to the bot. And then you move on to designing the actual dialogues. So this is the most important step in terms of the bot development process, which is identifying the use cases or questions. So here you need to interview or talk to your end users and collect the exact type of questions or how they are going to request the services and the knowledge. Using these, you can build a spreadsheet, and this itself will be useful for you to define your intents and utterances once you start designing the bot using a Watson assistant. So on the right hand side bottom part, you will see a sample spreadsheet. So it has got columns for the intent, that is the intended action, and then the representative questions from your end users, and then there is some description that describes what was the intent expected to do. Once you have identified the end user utterances and identified your intents, so the next step is designing the dialog flow. So remember, your bot itself has got a persona of its own. So you need to first start by deciding what is the tone or what is the personality of your bot. Next, you will decide how your bot will greet your end users, how your bot will terminate the conversations. And then you have to essentially document the entire sample conversations between end users and the bot, and then design the dialog flow. So here is a sample screen from Watson Assistant where you define your intents. So since you have already identified the list of questions that your end users are going to ask, so that spreadsheet itself can be used for defining the intent. So in this screen, you see the left-hand side first column is the intents. And then you can add a number of multiple examples or your end user utterances to intent, or you can create new intents as well. And then in the next screen, you will see how to define the dialogues. So this is a typical screen from Watson Assistant for the dialog flow. So each of these boxes that you see on the right hand side, so each of these is a dialog node. Essentially, it is a sub branch of a conversation that the end user is going to have. Each dialog flow will have some sort of starting, then it may be gathering some certain information from your end user by asking the end user some additional questions. Once the information is gathered, the dialog flow will decide what is the exact action that is to be performed with the information it has collected. And then it will close off the conversation. So the end user can then start the next conversation with the bot. We will take a look at this intents and utterance related best practices now. So in this particular section, I'm going to give you a number of links that you can follow. And then if you have any questions, you can get back to us. So the first topic being how to define the intent. So there is a IBM documentation link related to this particular topic. There is a nice Medium article also, which will talk about intent related best practices and recommendations. The next set of information is related to how to improve Watson Assistant. So IBM Watson Assistant itself comes with this capability called analytics, which will provide you a lot of insights into the end user conversations that are happening with your bot. It will also try to identify and it will give you some improvement suggestions. So you can use this for improving your bot. The next set of links is about how to define Watson Assistant entities and synonyms. So entity is anything which is of interest for a particular conversation. So typically it may be, say, name of a person, name of a place, a date, amount, etc. So this particular link will tell you how to define the entities and how to define synonyms, that is similar sounding words which mean the same thing. Once you have designed your bot, one of the important things that you would be interested in knowing is how well is my bot performing, how accurately it is identifying the intents that my in terms of the utterances or the conversations that my end user is having. So in order to support this, BMC has a feature which is known as testing the bot or testing the intents or utterances. So there is a set of links related to how you can use this capability. Essentially, you can give it a spreadsheet of end user utterances and what is the expected intent you expect the bot to classify. And then the particular feature will actually fire all those utterances, get the actual intents, and it will provide you a spreadsheet of what is the actual intent that it got. So if there is any mismatch, you can use that to go back to your bot and improve on the utterance examples or add new utterances and so on and so forth. Finally, there is information about this feature of IBM called as disambiguation. So whenever end user is asking about something, it is possible there may be multiple intent matches which are very close by, and bot is not able to understand what is the exact action the end user desires to take. So in such scenarios, this disambiguation feature will present a list of top options to the end user, asking him or her to identify exactly what is the action that he or she intended to take. So you can read about this particular feature through these disambiguation links. So let me now hand over to my colleague or who will take us through the remaining presentation and demos.
Thanks, Abhijit. My turn. Hey, everyone. Or here. I'm leading the development team here in Israel for the chatbot. And I wanted to share a few things with you guys, which will basically make you better chatbot owners, better chatbot developers. You could say that. We're going to start with how the chatbot is using custom processes in the IS and how you can create your own. Okay, so we're going to start with that. And what I like to start with is people sometimes ask me what the real power of the chatbot is. And I like to say integration with other stuff. It's integrated to so many applications in the BMC, the whole of the BMC portal. And right now we're going to focus on the integration to IBM Watson Assistant and the Innovation Studio. So we're going to do some kind of a live demo. I'm going to do a lot of alt tabs. I'm going to show you guys stuff on the Watson Assistant side and on the Innovation Studio side. Okay. The example I would like to start with, I guess I need to log in again. Okay, so the example I'll start with is something I like to always showcase, and it's basically an operation which is provided in our out-of-the-box starter kit. Okay, I always recommend for our customers who's first using the chatbot to start there. So that's the example I'm gonna showcase, and it's gonna be regarding reading the weather somewhere. So right now I'm gonna ask my chatbot, what is the weather in Paris? Okay, and we can see that I got a pretty cool response. It's nicely parsed. I even got a cloudy image. So you guys might be asking what is happening behind the scenes. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay, let's start with the IBM Watson side. What is happening there? Okay, we already talked about, Abhijit just talked about defining intents and entities and dialogues. So we're going to take that knowledge and build on top of that and expand that. So right now we have a dialogue for weather update. And again, this is a skill all of you guys can have access to on our BMC docs. It is part of the starter kit, okay? And we can see that the node is defined and there is a response for a success and an error. And if we have on the audience here knows the HTML tags, then they can see that this gets translated to this pretty neatly. But what I'm going to focus on right here is the JSON editor of the Watson Assistant. And I'm going to focus on what we have right here, a process definition name, or sometimes it's called an action name. That's the real integration I want to talk about. So let's start with the name. The name of the process here is getWeather, and it's part of a bundle, com, BMC, chatbot starter kit -lib. Okay, we have a set of input maps and output maps, like any inputs and outputs, but we're not going to focus on those and on the micro stuff. We're going to focus on the real process. So right now we're going to do a quick jump to the Innovation Studio, and we'll find this process. Okay. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Right now I'm connected to my demo environment. This is the Innovation Studio, and I'm going to open the Chatbot Starter Kit, and I'm going to go ahead and hop to the Process tab and find the getWeather process. Once again, I'm just making sure you guys remember, all of you have access to the Starter Kit in the docs. You can install it in your own Innovation Studio demo environment. So all of you guys can do that after I'm done, and you can explore yourself. And now this is a pretty well-defined process. Again, I'm not going to go into each block here and talk a lot about it. I just want to talk very macro about what is happening here. And I think the most interesting thing here is the web request. Okay, so we have some kind of definition here about how we can do an external API call to do something outside of the chatbot world per se. Okay, and I think that's the real power here. Okay, there are a lot of extra definitions and configuration we have to do. Let's say, for example, we just defined an API. So it means we need to define it as a web API connection. So we can do it here in the administration tab. For my example, I use the Open Weather connection. So I define a name, a host, a port, and the way of authentication. In my case, it's a custom with an app ID parameter. Your application and your API probably will be something else. Okay, other stuff that might be interesting. We have the web API definition here. That is also something you will need to do if you'll define a new API which will be used in some kind of process. Let's open the one right here, Open Weather API. We can see everything that we need to use to correctly call and perform an API call. So we have the path here, the method type, and anything else we might need, like headers, query parameters, path parameters, payload for a body, etc., etc. Okay, so everything we can do in the home of our Innovation Studio. Okay, and the real neat thing is that we prepared all of this here, bunched all of it inside some kind of process, and then just went ahead and called it from the Watson Assistant. Okay, that is the real power here, and that is what every one of you who is owning their own chatbot and want to extend the capabilities to their users should be aware of. Okay, so I think I showed everything I wanted to show regarding this custom process. Let's go back to the slides. Okay. So I have a couple of references here, which you could also have access to, and you can take a look later about how to invoke your own custom and how to implement all sorts of use cases. So you can use those examples and then build upon them and have your own. Okay. And now we're going to move to another subject, which is regarding metrics and dashboard reporting. Okay. Small breather. Okay. So this is another very interesting point that not a lot of people are aware of, and not a lot of people are using this extra power, as I like to say, which is how to read how our users are using our chatbot. Okay, I said a lot of hours there, and how to improve when we see this data. Okay, so basically to understand that, I'm gonna run you guys through the short and a neat life cycle of a single event. And we'll talk about what an event is and how it starts from the chatbot as a small data point and adds up in a part of some kind of large dashboard or metrics over at Helix dashboards or ADE dashboards. Okay, let's do a quick run through with the slide I prepared here. So what are we starting with? We did some communication with any chatbot, and let's say the simplest thing is I sent some kind of message over at the chatbot. Okay, it gets sent to the telemetry service as an event. We'll talk about what an event is shortly, okay? So the event data is being stored and persisted over at the telemetry service, okay? And you can imagine the data sits there and it's all bulked up to raw data over at some kind of database. The next step is we need to tell the Innovation Studio how to group the data, how to fetch it, and how to count or aggregate it, okay? So that's another thing we will talk about, and that's the next step. And the final step is once the Innovation Studio has fetched and pulled all the data, of course, it's an incremental thing. We could report once a day, once a month, once a year. Yeah, you get my point. The data is stored in the Innovation Studio. And the final step is the Helix dashboards are fetching the data from the Innovation Suite, okay? And then what do we do with the data? We prepare some kind of interesting chart, dashboard, whatever you want from it, okay? So again, we're gonna do a quick demo for it, okay? Again, I need to do a short login. Pardon, cookie expiration is a problem. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. And I think the best place to start is to just use the chatbot and send some kind of message, because that's the life cycle I wanted to talk about. A bit slow. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything special. I'm going to do a simple hi to the chatbot. I expect a greeting message back. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use a small web API I use on a daily basis to make sure my data has reached the telemetry service. Okay, so right now I can see my message right here. Okay, if we look at the time, it is called the correct time. We just received it. And I'll even just showcase it right here under the web APIs. I'll already spill the beans and say I used a type of event called the conversation event. And basically that's the API I just called. Okay, I'm not going to focus too much, but I just want to tell you guys what I'm doing. Okay, so I know that the event was captured. I know that the event is on the telemetry service. The data is there. Okay, what's the next step? Let's go over some interesting tabs we have right here. So we'll start with the events tab. So in here we have right now, according to the recent version, 7 out-of-the-box events, which we use internally. You can add your own. We won't talk about custom events in this demo, but it's always nice to mention you can customize everything all the time. Okay, and right now I'm focusing on the conversation event. It's a large event with many, many fields. We store a lot of data points here, and we can learn and get a lot of data from conversation of users with the bot. Okay, so right now what you're seeing is one conversation event being persisted to the telemetry service. The next question is, okay, what am I doing with the data? It's raw data. It's ugly. It's messy. What am I doing with it? Okay, so the next step is to tell the Innovation Studio how to group it and how to aggregate it. And I'm going to continue with the conversation example. Let's pick conversation by bot and DN channel. What does event statistics mean? It means how to group the data of the events. And if we want to count some fields, how to do that as well. Let's go with the bot ID and channel example. So by the name, as it's big spoiler, we're probably grouping by bot ID and channel. In here, we're also grouping but by session ID. No big deal, it's not mentioned in the name. We report by certain timeframes from a day to a year. And for fields which are countable or integers, we usually can describe how we want to aggregate. So do we want average values, the sum, minimum, maximum, stuff like that, okay? Because inherently the telemetry service is for aggregation, okay? So what did we do so far? We sent an event, it's stored in the telemetry service, and we told the Innovation Studio how to group and fetch it. How is it being fetched? Let's talk about that. When an event statistics object gets created, an appropriate _report data record is being created. So we can see a lot of those here. And if I'll find the one which is conversation by bot at the end channel, okay, I'll find it right here. And I just want to showcase to you guys that the data is here, meaning every data that I sent along my many conversations. This is a demo environment after all, but I am using the chatbot a lot on a daily basis. So I had a lot of conversation, and we can see that a lot of data is being stored here. And so now the data is here in the Innovation Studio. If you guys remember, the last step is to go and hop into the Helix dashboards. Okay, so I have a very simple Helix dashboard environment here. Currently, it's not connected to my IIS because of reasons, okay? But I did prepare some kind of small image of how it should look, okay? So this is the chatbot simple overview. Again, this is a simple out-of-the-box dashboards which we provide. You can always customize your own, either by yourself or with the help of our lovely dashboard team. Okay, they're doing a great help there. And what I wanted to show you guys is basically the last step of understanding the real integration here. So when I want to make changes or just to look at how some kind of dashboard or metric is being built, it's basically some kind of SQL query. And that's what I wanted to show you guys, that when we query for some data, we query it from the AR system schema and for a certain record. And this is the exact record we just looked at together. Com BMC DSM chatbot, this is our bundle. And the record name, conversation about ID, and channel _ report data. So that is the last step. Let's not focus on the other query part here and exactly what is being grouped here. I'm not sure everyone knows SQL here, and it doesn't matter. But that's what's happening. So if I'll go back to the slide, we basically did exactly that. We did a whole run through of a simple event lifecycle. It can help you guys understand what is happening behind the scenes. And again, the idea is for you to use that knowledge and power and basically use our core and out-of-the-box default dashboards, or create your own if there is data there which you know you are looking for and we currently do not provide. Okay, I think we can continue now. So this is just the whole list of all the resources we supplied across all the slides. And no reason to go each and every one, but you will have access to every single one of them, okay? All of them are public, and they are wonderful reading for everyone who is a chatbot owner, as I like to say. Okay, that's pretty much it. I hope, I'm glad you joined. I hope you learned a thing or two. And we here, every one of us hope that you will be a better chatbot owner and developer. Sam, can you take it away? Anything from you? Sam, we can't hear you. Let's give her a few seconds. Sam, you're not audible. Okay, some technical problems. It's fine. So while she's fixing that, I think we could talk a little bit about questions, if there are any. I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A panel.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind.
Please.
So where you was doing your query out to find the weather, and particular ones where you was firing out into dashboards, if as a user I go and say, show how many times have my tickets failed their SLA, for example, in the last month, as a normal user of Digital Workplace, you wouldn't necessarily have access to incident management to go and check those tickets. So how does it map your permissions through to allow you to see your data but not see other people's data? Is that a thing that's possible, or is it not, or is it a bit? Is that a bit too much of a complex request for it?
No, you asked a very, very complex question. Let's try to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but let's take it into steps. So what do you want to recognize? What chatbot activity would you like to recognize? Exactly. Okay. And let's talk about permissions later.
Okay. From chatbot can we call a very particular Helix dashboard to display some data?
Why do you want the chatbot to display a dashboard? Don't you want to look at the dashboards over at the Helix Dashboards UI? Why do you want the chatbot to show it?
Potentially because if chatbot is embedded in Teams, and I ask in Teams, how many tickets have I had this month? Go, and it throws you up a simple chart from Helix Dashboards that shows you've had this many open, closed. It's then dependent on what your reporting requirements are. But can I go off and pull that back automatically? Because you're not always going to be in tool, and these people may not have access to dashboards because they are customers of IT.
Wonderful. Yes, that's my point. I'm getting you now. So let's do a quick separation. We have the Helix dashboards, which are basically, I want to say, for chatbot admins. Okay, it's for you guys to look at the data and understand what are we doing wrong, what are we doing right, is the data correct, etc., etc. So basically, you're telling me, or I want my users to have access to this data as well, and is it possible? And I want to say at large, yes, because I always like to say that everything is customizable. How hard of a job will it be? I don't know, but is it possible? Yes, because at the end, it's just an SQL query that the Helix dashboard are doing to the Innovation Studio. So right now, you are the chatbot, and you want to query data which is inside your own bundle, inside a record which you own. Yes, you could do that. But maybe making it neat into some kind of a dashboard might be a little of extra hard work. It might be an interesting feature. Okay, it doesn't sound to me like something that I can give to you tomorrow, but it could turn into a feature.
Okay, no, I know it's a bit of a stretch, that kind of thing, and it's a very complex question, but it's always nice asking these kind of things in these calls.
No problem. Okay. Any other open questions? Anyone?
I got a question.
Please, Rob.
Okay. We use Chatbot in our company, and I'm the database manager that creates all the knowledge base articles. We also use SRDs, service request tiles. And my question is, and I'll give you an example. We have an SRD request tile for access to WebEx and different levels of WebEx that you need access to. So we hard-coded through the API, went and said that if anybody asks about setting up WebEx, getting access to WebEx, pulls up, okay, what level of access do you need, creates the ticket, sends, then we have the process of the ticket. The problem that I'm seeing is that I've got 20 to 30 knowledge base articles that deal with WebEx, how to create, how to do this, how to do that, how to invite. I've got a whole bunch. The problem is using the chatbot to pull them up. Now, if we search inside specifically like what I need, yes, the search words, but with the chatbot itself, no matter what I do, it always will pull up that particular request. What do you need requests for? What level do you need? We'll fill out this form, and you submit it. It's not pulling up anything, even if I, label specifically, use keywords. What am I missing with inside? Okay. What am I missing? Okay. What am I not setting up correctly to differentiate so chatbot knows? Go ahead.
Let me just try and rephrase that and see if I got you clearly. So basically you're telling, I want my chatbot to perform a search instead of starting a process of submitting a service request.
Correct.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, and if we'll, as I like to say, dumb it down even further, basically you want to enhance your intent matching and intent recognition. Is that right?
That's exactly it.
Okay, so basically we talked exactly on that at the start of the slides. Abhijit talked about it quite a lot, and it's not an easy task. It's not something trivial at all. We need to, okay, so the first step is try to put as many examples as we can to the chatbot, and then teach it, sort of. Okay, we want to use the internal machine learning capabilities of Watson Assistant. And when we train the bot with plenty of examples, it will recognize better. But you're telling me no matter what keywords I use, I still can't get where I want to get. In that case, we have a few, I want to say, workarounds, which are basically changing location in the dialog tree, maybe enhancing the way of order, maybe navigating or routing to different dialogues. Basically, in certain types of inputs, make sure that the bot navigates to the way you want it to navigate to. Okay. This is totally something which sounds like you need a working session on. Okay. It's totally something you can reach out to our support. If it will turn into an R&D escalation, we will help you with that. Okay, but this totally sounds like something which is just enhancing intents a little bit, and in a worst case scenario, maybe changing the dialog tree a little bit. We actually had one customer, I won't name him, of course. He wanted to change the logic completely. He wanted the search to be done not as a fallback, but as a first respond, because usually we try to recognize an intent to pick up some kind of service, and then if nothing is recognized, only then we do some kind of fallback search. Okay, so you could reverse this logic. Okay, this is our out-of-the-box logic, but you could do whatever you want.
Thank you.
Wonderful question. So I'll just let you guys know Sam is having a little of disconnecting issue, but please, let's continue. Any other questions? I see some raised hands. Please feel free to talk.
Hi, this is regarding for the chatbot, the report to review the conversations, what happened with user to chatbot, to identify the improvisation where it is need. So here we are not having the chatbot reports, which is showing the conversation information. So we are having the challenge now. So what is the approach? How to get the chatbot conversations details in the report?
Okay, you asked a little bit of a general question, so please help me take it a little deeper. What conversation details are you interested in exactly? And maybe I'll take you all the way to the end. What do you want to achieve? Answer me that, and then we'll take a step back. I'm guessing you're interested in a particular set of data, or what would you like to achieve?
Right. So we created one chatbot for password reset functionality, password
Wonderful.
reset support.
Mm-hmm.
So in the initial conversations, what user is asking the question, what type of request that user is reporting to chatbot. So that information we need to know, so that based on that level of questions, we can define the intent for the particular created chatbot.
So basically, you want a report to count, correct me if I'm wrong, how many times this specific intent was picked up? Is that general enough?
Exactly, that it is picked up, and why it is not picked up for other particular of questions with the corresponding for this particular chatbot. So that other questions also we need to understand what is a gap, what is the issue.
Okay, so the first part I wanted to say right away, no problem. The second part is a little bit more problematic. Let's start with the first one, which is basically you want a report for intents, or let's even say something we have right now out of the box, which is most recognized intents. It's also a conversation event-based report, and it groups by, I think, bot ID, session ID, and intents, and then it just does some kind of query and counts how many of these intents and how many of these intents were recognized, and does a neat pie chart for it. Now, again, this is an out-of-the-box process, dashboard, sorry. You might want to create your own. If you're interested in a particular password reset intent, you can create your own either event and event statistic for it, or just go ahead and just create a dashboard for it. I say try to use the current data we have and create a new dashboard to fetch for specific intent. I think this is totally something which we can do, but this should be something which you will need help from dashboard team. Okay, they have a wonderful support team and they can help with creating a new dashboard based on current data. And if there is any uncertainties regarding data which we send from Chatbot side, I can pitch in. Okay, now let's go to the second part. You said I wanted to also capture or catch cases where it's not recognized. Now, again, we're going back into uncertainty and into general area. How can I tell you when you are wrong? It's a very hard question to ask, okay? If you'll, you know, make it a little tighter, a little more well-defined, maybe we can think about something, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, I see some raised hands, so yeah, Cosmin, you can ask your question.
I don't. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Here's Slavo from Zurich. I have a question. Can you? I'm pretty new to the chatbot, so it can be a very silly question. Can I actually access digital workplace catalog from chatbot? I mean, what I want to have is like we have these services in the workplace catalog, and users sometimes they ask they want to have something. So it's actually would be great to look and give like links as a solution to the user.
Okay, I'll just start with saying it's not a silly question. It's a newbie question. Those are the best kind of questions. We were all newbies once, okay? Now, access to catalog. General answer is yes. Chatbot is integrated to the DWP and the DWPC. What do you want to access right now? You said you want to provide a link, okay? You can do that right away from the Watson Assistant. You don't even need access to the catalog. If you do want to send some kind of request to the catalog to fetch some data, you can do that as well. If you want to submit a specific request, service, I mean, you can do that after it's defined in the catalog. You just need to use the publish wizard to make sure your Watson Assistant skill knows the service. Now, what do I mean when I say knows? It means it has a proper intent with some examples to recognize that service the user wants to start and the submission process for this service. And then he will know the questions and will eventually submit it to the DWP. Now, does that answer your question, or would you like to well define it?
So do you need to configure it in Watson, or is it actually you need to connect in Watson the catalog so it has access to it?
So basically, when you have the Innovation Studio platform, you have access to DWP, DWPC, and Chatbot. And Chatbot is inherently integrated both to DWP and to the catalog. Now, for your Watson skill to know what service X and what service Y and what service Z are, what their questions, what their answers, intents, and entities, you need to use something called the publish wizard. Okay, and the publish wizard basically lets you do all of these things. Imagine it does an API call to the catalog, fetches all the services, you pick one of them, and start filling out the data, like what examples should I use to recognize them? What questions should I ask the users? All of these things you can do from the publish wizard in the Innovation Studio. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Cool. So let's see. Next in line is James, I think.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, James.
Hi there. First of all, thank you for a great demo. That was really, really interesting. Like Cosmin, we are still we're newbies. We're very early on in our journey. So all this is really, really interesting. And so I did have a question about kind of end-to-end user experience, and it might be one that we need to speak to the dashboard team. So I know that the chatbot and the live agent are two separate, let's say, modules or processes. The one thing I would love to know, and I don't know if you've done this for any customers, but is there a way for us to track the end-to-end experience? So if we think about, as a customer, if I wanted to use chatbot and I'm exploring a number of different knowledge articles, I'm trying to drive self-service through the chatbot. And then if that's unsuccessful, I then move to live chat. And then after live chat, if I can't get the solution I need, I then get a case created. So I'm almost going through a tier 0, tier 1, tier 2 servicing. Is there a way through any of the dashboards to build that end-to-end relationship so we can see that journey? So this particular customer, we were able to resolve it, self-service, but actually on a particular case, we weren't able to do that and had to go all the way through to a case being created. So my question, to simplify it, can we build that relationship between chatbot and the live chat and case creating experience?
Okay, so let me just rephrase it. Basically, you would like a dashboard which will say, if I had 100 conversations, 60 of them were self-serviced and 40 were not. Is that simplified enough?
Yeah, and could
Okay.
they map, so we could track a particular case all the way through? So we could say, we could pin it down to a particular case.
Okay. So even deeper, a pie chart of serviced by agent, serviced by service request, serviced by manual IT guy.
Yes.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay. As always, my general answer is yes, but it will take work. Okay. Right now, if you look at a certain session, you could already figure out a lot of data from it. You could say, if it was resolved by a service request submission, or talking to an agent, or searching, using some kind of knowledge search, okay? You could already figure out that data. But is it super certain that the conversation or the subject was indeed resolved? That's still an open question. Now, you spread it into a few tiers. Maybe that's something which we currently don't have out of the box, and it will mean you have to tweak it a little bit with your own custom events. Again, sounds like something which should be a working session on with R&D. Okay, we'll start with the support level, of course. They might be able to help, and the dashboard team as well. Generally, the dashboard team, as you said, and you said correctly, the dashboard team and the chatbot team are separate entities. I don't expect dashboard support to know too much about how the chatbot works and chatbot data and chatbot events. They support other products as well. Okay, it makes sense. But that's where we come into the picture. Okay, we will help with whatever we can. So my short answer is yes, but needs work.
No, understood. I get that. One thing you might be able to answer, sorry for a bolt-on question, but I would say the way, I know we can use this skill set in a number of different ways. We're using it very much at search at the moment. So we're searching for we've got quite a robust, we've got a big knowledge repository. And by selecting them, so we then report on a lot of people. Do people find these articles useful, etc.? So where is the experience and the satisfaction for customers being tracked? Is it tracked against if I search through the chatbot to locate a knowledge article? If I go into that, then select my experience to that, is that am I tracking satisfaction against the article? Am I tracking satisfaction against the chatbot, if that makes sense? Because the source in terms of how we got there is different.
It does make sense, but there are a lot of deeper to your deeper parts to your questions. Let me start with, what is your knowledge provider? Are you using DWP data, RKM, Cavalry?
No, we're using DWP.
Okay, so inside DWP, if I might be wrong, again, I'm not a DWP guy, but when we consume knowledge from the DWP side, we have an internal mechanism which counts views and also label data as helpful and not helpful. Now, your question is a wonderful question. Currently, we don't have internal metrics from the chatbot side for that. The reason is because DWP tracked it. Again, and they still do. It's part of the smart reporting process. Now, this is a question to dashboard team. And I'm telling you because I don't know how to answer. I can follow up on that. But does the data on smart reporting of views counting and articles being helpful or not helpful, is it being reflected anywhere in any Helix dashboard? That's a question I'd like to know the answer to as well. Okay, I'm just being honest. But I'll just add another small spoiler. We are considering creating metrics exactly for that as well. It's an option. It's something my product manager need to decide on, not me. But yeah.
No, good. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Omar, if you had a question, you can go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is, can we see the conversation end to end? So the scenario is this: we are fairly new to this as well. We've got it implemented. The end users can reach our chatbots now. When they ask a question, and if it is successful or if it isn't successful, we would like to be able to see the entire conversation. Can we only see that in Innovation Studio, or is there a way for us to get that extracted into like a dashboard or something like that, so that we can see it and review it every day in the morning to see what was successful and what was not successful, so that we can update knowledge articles and improve our conversation piece. So we would like to see the conversation end to end.
So let me just rephrase, as you can see, I always like to do. You would like to have an automated process which once a day, let's say, go over all the conversation that happened in a certain day. And if some flag of unsuccessful was turned on, you would like to fetch that conversation data, the transcript, and send it to yourself and then go over that. Did I capture everything?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to say, again, I think I'm repeating myself. Yes, it's possible. It actually seems like not too hard of a job as well. Only one part is problematic. I'll keep that to the end. So you can create some kind of Innovation Studio process, which goes over conversation data and tries to find how do we label a conversation is unsuccessful. So that is something we can talk about for hours, right? It's something I talk to a lot of customers and internally as well, how we can decide if a chatbot conversation was indeed resolved. Is it successful? Is it not successful? It's a hard job to do. But let's just say we do have this magical Boolean, true or false, okay? If we do have it, it is a simple process. But this looks something that we need to do a little bigger deep dive on, okay? Now, if right now you already wanted to have some kind of process to just mail you all the transcript of the last day, that is a very simple process you can do right now. Okay, you as an admin have access to all the conversations, and you can create a process which will send them to you over mail or whatever. You can capture them in a single record and then export that record into a CSV. You can, there's a million ways to implement it. We just need to decide what is right for you. Okay, so yeah, possible, super possible, but that problematic part is also the most interesting part, because you would like to know, okay, out of these 10 sessions I had yesterday, 2 of them were labeled unsuccessful. Let's look at the users. Let's see what they wrote. Maybe we can enhance our intent recognition based on these keywords. But how do we know these 2 were wrong? That's something everyone wants an answer for, okay?
Okay. My second one is, you guys get requests from all sorts of different companies and build things for them. Do you guys hold this and say, hey, we've built this for this other company, it's available for everyone since we're all, users of this application? Or is it, this is for that, this is for this company, this is for that company? Can we get access to the things that are being built for everybody else?
Good question. Short answer is yes. Yes, when we build something and we call it a feature, it's up for everyone's grab. I'm not gonna hold this feature only for a certain company. All of you are our customers, okay? If company X requested a feature and company Y and company Z, might be that I'm gonna put my shoes right now, put myself in the shoes of the product manager, right? Okay, so he might say, oh, we have X, Y, and Z, but company Y feature seems the most interesting and the most important. So we will probably put focus on company Y's idea, but we will still deliver it to all of the other companies and the other customers. Okay, so yeah, you will get all the features. We don't limit anything.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Shruti, you had some question?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shruti. Even I have a newbie question. So recently, we want to improve the chatbot, but actually we have a chatbot and we wanted to know how we want to improve. And you already provided some of the links. We would go through that. I think that would be very useful. Thank you. But I wanted to know what is the maximum potential where we can reach with the live chat. As James mentioned before, first we have a chat bot which pulls out the knowledge articles, and then if the users are not satisfied with it, it goes to the live chat. So this is the current process right now, but we would want to improve on this, and we want to know what are the other things we can include, or like maybe the user interface. What is the maximum potential, or like how to get there?
Again, sorry, but your question is quite general. You're saying, how can I do better? That's basically what you're asking. So I'm guessing we're back to the point of how we can decide if a conversation was successful / resolved and how it was resolved. So you mentioned search, and then you mentioned a fallback to live chat. So these two things are already captured, and we can interpret them from the raw data based on current dashboards we have. Okay, what else would you like to achieve? Let's be a little more specific.
So it's like currently that's what we are thinking, like what is the maximum potential, like how do we increase the live chat performance so that more people use the live chat and chatbot and finish their query there.
So you're asking, how am I pulling more users to use the chatbot? Is that?
And to make it more user friendly.
If you'll ask me, and I'm quite young, I don't know what's the average age in this crowd. I like to solve things by chat. Okay, and I like to do self-service. I don't want to wait 10 minutes for an IT guy to solve my problem or whatever. Okay, so I think doing that can help. I think making sure you guide your customers, your users, to use the chatbot to solve their own problems will be best.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, earlier in the questions that I answered, there was a question from somebody in Germany asking about accessibility, the voice support for the bot. So we are doing something in that area, or planning to do something, right? So I just wanted you to add more.
Okay, cool question. We do have a feature for voice recognition and also reading the chatbot responses. It is in progress. I can't give a date for it right now, but it is a work in progress. Yes. We are, I'll just mention, we are fully supporting screen readers. Okay, so the chatbot is fully working with screen readers. I personally worked on that. So I can confidently say this is already working, but we also will hopefully support in the future voice activation, voice recognition.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And there is one more question, unanswered question. So it's talking about the typical issue that is there when some utterance matches a service request or SRD question as well as a knowledge article question. And somebody is asking, we are adding dialogues to handle both the cases actually. So if you wanted
You're
to.
talking about the question from Laura? Let me do a
Yes,
quick
Laura.
read.
Laura, yes.
Let me do a quick read.
It wasn't, it was more of an answer to the other question that someone else had, of how
okay.
we were addressing the issue of it returning SRDs, the SRD questions instead of knowledge articles. So we created dialogues with links to the most commonly used knowledge articles and SRDs for that topic to get around that.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering on our behalf. Wonderful answer. Okay, so I think we are out of question and also out of time, which is the perfect combo. I'll thank you guys for joining. I see some familiar faces in the participant area. It means I know you guys closely, which is cool. Not faces, names. Thank you for joining. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm gonna end the session now. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.